Hello, and welcome to the John Burt Leadership Podcast. My purpose is to help successful leaders like you to enhance your self-awareness and leadership skills in order to navigate the disruptive changes that you face every day. And my hope for you is for you to become more inspiring and lead with greater impact. I'm your host, John Burt, an executive leadership coach. Through this podcast, my aim is to provide you with new insights and fresh perspectives on leadership through conversations with incredible guests and sharing thoughts, ideas, and experiences on leadership. My hope that this will enable you to continue to grow and adapt and become a more impactful leader, ultimately contributing to making your organization and the world a better place. So let's dive in. Today's episode, Inspiring Young Leaders, a conversation with Pooja Singh. We are undergoing the largest demographic shift in the workforce that the world has ever experienced. Nearly 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every day, and millennials now make up over 50% of the U.S. workforce and will reach 75% of the global workforce by 2025. Approximately 35% of all leadership positions are held by millennials, or between 5.2 and 11.2 million leaders. Many of these leaders take on these roles with only 3 to 5 years of world experience. It's no wonder that a majority of these new leaders report that they don't feel ready and have not received the proper training to take on their current role. Many studies, and my own personal experience as a leadership coach, indicate that the next generations are reluctant to take on leadership roles. They believe much more in flatter organizational structures, peer-to-peer collaboration, and teamwork to achieve goals. The organization's mission and purpose are also important, and the newest generation are willing to turn down opportunities that don't align with their personal mission. Others cite a desire to maintain work-life balance and don't want to take on the long hours and the intrusion on their personal lives that a leadership role might require. With so many challenges facing the world today, it is crucial that we find a way to encourage and inspire the next generation to take on leadership roles, and that we provide the support and training necessary for them to feel capable and enthusiastic about being a leader. Inspiring young leaders is both descriptive and aspirational. As a leadership coach, I want to highlight these young leaders and let them tell their stories and how they connect their personal mission by taking on leadership roles. I hope that by giving them a platform that they will in turn inspire others to find their purpose and step into leadership opportunities. My guest today is Dr. Pooja Singh, an amazing young leader. Pooja is a recent Doctor of Pharmacy, or PharmD, graduate from the University of Southern California, where she also earned her BS in Pharmacology and Drug Development with minors in Business Finance and Natural Science. Inspired by her father's career as a pharmacist, Pooja decided at a very young age to pursue a career in pharmacy. She is driven by a growing passion for the field and a dedication to giving back to the profession, a profession that has continued to inspire her since she was a child. During her academic tenure, Pooja distinguished herself as a leader, consistently demonstrating a commitment to service and professional development. She served as class president and led her school's student chapters of the American Pharmacists Association and the California Pharmacists Association. Pooja's impact extended statewide as a student trustee for the California Pharmacists Association and president of the CPHA Academy of Student Pharmacists, where she represented student pharmacists from across California. Pooja is passionate about all things pharmacy, leadership, and service. Pooja hopes to utilize her various leadership experiences to continue to mentor student pharmacists, encourage them to get involved and serve their profession, and become their best personal and professional selves. This summer, Pooja will begin her journey at Amgen as a Rutgers University Pharmaceutical Industry Fellow, leveraging her diverse experiences to contribute meaningfully to the pharmaceutical industry. Please welcome my guest, Pooja Singh. Pooja, welcome. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so delighted that you're with us here today.
Thank you for having me, John. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. Now, today's episode is about inspiring young leaders, and you are certainly one who has inspired both myself, but many, many other people. Let's get into it. Could you tell us a little bit about what your inspiration was or has been, and a little bit about your background?
Absolutely. So I recently graduated from the University of Southern California with my Doctor of Pharmacy degree. But the decision to become a pharmacist wasn't a recent one by any means. I decided in the fifth grade that I wanted to become a pharmacist. I was lucky enough to be raised in the pharmacy setting because my dad had his own independent pharmacy for almost 40 years before he retired last year. So I got to grow up in that setting and see what a difference my dad was able to make in his patients' lives, see the types of relationships he had with patients, um,
Mhm.
honestly, for generations of patients. My dad has seen like grandparents, parents, children, like all sorts of extended family members throughout his time as a pharmacist. And I think that was something that really spoke to me as a young kid, seeing those personal interactions. And that kind of drew me to pharmacy in the first place. And I I went through 4 years of undergrad, also at USC, studying pharmacology and drug development, 4 years of pharmacy school, and I think that passion has only intensified with time, meeting other pharmacy, like, leaders, seeing the things they have accomplished has just all been so inspirational, and it's something I hope to continue to do as a pharmacy leader, inspire, hopefully, future generations of pharmacists.
Well, fantastic. I mean, knowing in the fifth grade, that's pretty impressive. Not many people know that early, or at
Uh,
least people think they're going to be a fireman or whatever, and then
yeah.
they a lawyer or whatever, they change your mind. But that's
Yeah.
pretty impressive. So I hear a lot and read a lot in the press about the face of leadership. Leadership is changing
Mhm.
as maybe even a decade ago or pre-COVID to now. Tell us a little bit about your definition of leadership. What is leadership to you?
Leadership to me, I think it's quite multifaceted, right? It goes far beyond that traditional notion of authority and control. I think at its core, it's about inspiring and guiding individuals towards a shared goal or vision. I know to me, it's about influence, inspiration, and I think mostly service. Um,
Hmm.
recognizing potential in individuals and helping your team members see possibilities that they may have not otherwise been able to consider or see. And then, of course, service, prioritizing the people that you are serving and, being empathetic and understanding of individual like challenges and motivations. Um, but also like being a role model, I think, in order to be a good leader, you need to be a good role model and just setting high standards through your own actions and also just fostering a culture of trust and collaboration, I think is very important uh, in leadership.
Oh, fantastic. And so, do you believe that young leaders are inclined to be leaders? We hear a lot about that people don't really want to be leaders anymore. They don't like the headaches. They don't want the hassle. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. I think my leadership journey started young enough that I think I always knew I wanted to be a leader. I started taking on leadership roles in middle school. In high school, I went on to serve as like student body president, continued my leadership throughout undergrad and pharmacy school. So I think from my own personal experience, it felt very almost innate. Um,
Mhm.
but I think I've always been driven by this passion and this fire within me. And I think that has led me to this point. I think it's hard to say if that's true for every single person. I think sometimes it's important to find your passion, find the things that you're excited about, and like pursue those further. Um, so yeah, maybe not everyone has that same innate drive to become, I don't know, their best leader, like their best leader selves. Um, but I think I definitely did.
Yeah, I think what I also hear is that inspiration people don't feel like they know what their purpose is,
Yeah.
and do you believe that the purpose is something that you can grow into, or do you think that it, like for yourself, it sounds like it was something that you knew very early on, but do you, when you coach and you talk to individuals about becoming leaders, do you believe that that purpose is something that people can grow into?
Absolutely. I think it's all about finding your passion. I was so lucky to find my passion at such a young age, but I know that's not true for everyone, and people will find
Hmm.
passions at various points in their lives. I think it's just about, continuing to challenge yourself and surprise yourself with the passions you find along the way, almost like it's a gift to yourself. So I absolutely think people can grow into their passion. Just a matter of being tenacious and keeping looking for it and fighting for it.
Yeah, I love that idea of being a gift to yourself. There's a certain amount of risk taking that's kind of required in some cases, right? Is that something that you would say is a top quality for young leaders? Is the willingness to take risks and maybe make some mistakes along the way?
Absolutely. I like to think of them as like calculated risks, right? You don't want to just jump off a cliff. But thinking about what you're doing, I think taking risks is so important. If you're just going to stick to the status quo, like what's the point? If you're not trying to grow yourself and challenge yourself professionally and personally, as a leader, you're never going to grow. I think failure is so important because it's one of the best ways to keep learning and keep growing. Um, and, failures are another way to keep surprising yourself and growing. It's truly a gift to yourself to fail.
Okay, Pooja, I'm going to put you on the spot because I think about you, and I think you've never failed at anything. Do you want to talk about your biggest failure?
Oh my goodness. Oh, I feel like I've had a few. It's hard to choose, honestly, just one. I'm trying to think. Ugh.
Okay, well, we can come back to that if you like.
Okay.
I just, but it's no, it's great because I see risk as something that everybody has, in today's environment, right? Nobody wants to make these huge mistakes, and
Yeah.
but I love your idea about the calculated risk.
Mhm.
Taking measured and calculated risks is the smart way to go about it. What are some of the other essential qualities for young leaders today?
Um, I think adopting a growth mindset is very important, like not just
Mhm.
waiting for opportunities to fall in your lap, although sometimes they will fall into your lap. I'm sorry. Um, Sometimes they will fall into your lap, and you should just be willing to take them on and say yes. But also, like, in addition to like not just waiting for opportunities, like identifying the gaps, identifying areas you want to grow, and like proposing potential solutions or avenues you can use to explore that, to make sure you are, becoming your best personal and professional self. I think, of course, in any role, leadership or otherwise, being a strong, effective communicator is important. And I think emotional intelligence is another really big one. Um, Being self-aware
Mhm.
and, self-regulating, having empathy, especially when you're working with all sorts of different team members, truly understanding what's going on in their individual lives, their challenges, their aspirations, their goals, their motivations, um, is really important to continue to build as a young leader, because I think those qualities sustain you throughout your entire career, not just in the now. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mentorship
Mhm.
and coaching and sponsorship. And I'm sure it sounds like you've had some great mentors along the way that have helped you out. Can you talk a little bit about mentorship and the importance of it for young leaders?
Yeah, absolutely. I think mentorships mentorship can help create like such a supportive environment that's critical for young leaders' development, and for
Mhm.
young leaders to thrive. I think mentors have a unique ability to help instill, confidence and provide encouragement.
Mhm.
And they can open you up as a young leader to their network, which is huge for a young leader, because
Mhm.
you're always trying to grow your network, and that, opens you up to new professional opportunities as well. And they can, of course, offer their own insight and perspective from their experiences. I'm so blessed to have had such great mentors during my time so far. I know one of, I think, my biggest accomplishments that I feel like personally was a biggest accomplishment up until this point has been serving at the state level with the California Pharmacists Association,
Mhm.
serving
Mhm.
on their board of trustees as their student trustee and the statewide president for all the student members and chapters across the state. And that would have never been possible without one of my mentors being like, hey, I think this would be a great opportunity for you, and I think you'd be a good fit. So, something to keep on your radar. And at
Mhm.
the time, like this mentor had told me this, it wasn't a great time for me. So I was like, I put it to the back of my mind as like a potential future goal. Although at that point, I had never ever considered, a leadership role outside of school. Like that seemed foreign.
Mhm.
I was doing enough at school. So I think it was really, that mentorship that kind of pushed me in that direction, kind of opened me up to this new world, helped me strengthen my leadership skills, helped make me a better professional. So I think mentorship is huge in a young leader's career, especially so early on in our careers.
Mhm. Now you mentioned that you came to you at a time that it wasn't a good time for you, and I am curious, right? Because you have been such a high achiever and you've been involved in so much. I mean, resilience must be a key element. How have you gone about developing resilience and continuing to kind of deal with the challenges that must have come along with all of these roles that you've had?
Yeah, I think it's been a matter of, again, continuing to seek challenges and surprise yourself. Um,
Mhm.
like, I think one word of advice I got early on in my pharmacy school career when, I don't know, one of my peers realized I was doing a lot of like on campus leadership roles and such. And like I was always looking to like continue more because I was like, I
Mhm.
can do more, like I want to do more. I like love what I'm doing. And so they said to me, what would being in this additional position like do for you? What would it add to you? And like, how would it help you grow that you're not already doing? And
Mhm.
I think that was really important in my mindset as I continued to build and grow as a leader. Um, you know, what is taking on this new position or taking on this new project
Mhm.
or such? How is that going to help me grow? How is that going to help me become a better, person and professional and leader? And I think, you know, I had done the school leadership thing so many times. So when that opportunity arose again to pursue that state level position, I was like, okay, this is an opportunity for me to challenge myself, to build that resiliency, even though it seemed so foreign. It was like, it felt really out of reach. And it felt like I might fail because I don't know exactly what I'm doing all the time. Whereas like in these roles I'd had on campus, I was like, oh, I know exactly what to do. Like it was new, it was fresh, it was challenging, and I failed along the way certain times, but it helped build that resiliency. Um, and I think just owning it, acknowledging it. Um, one as a leader, I think when you are able to acknowledge your failures as a leader amongst your teammates, like they also know it's okay to fail and mess up at times. So I think just going out there and challenging yourself has been one of the best ways to build like resiliency throughout my time. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic story. Pooja, so we're going to switch gears a little bit, right? And I think it's you obviously have an audience with this podcast of leaders within organizations, and if you had some advice for them in terms of how they could go about inspiring young leaders, right? It's people who have potential, people who are looking to grow from your own perspective. What would that advice be?
Sorry, do you mean it from the perspective of, established professionals?
Yeah, I mean the leaders of some of these companies that
Yeah.
you're hopefully going to be leading yourself one day. But if you had advice for how to encourage young professionals to kind of go for it, take those calculated risks and stretch and dream big, what would the advice be to those corporate leaders or those organization leaders?
I think I think providing constructive feedback is one of the best ways that like corporate leaders can help young leaders grow and like providing mentorship, of course, as well.
Mhm.
Like I kind of mentioned earlier, I think having people that, advocate for you behind the scenes, having people that, take the time to get to know you and understand your motivations, your goals, and find ways to help you achieve them. Whether that's, opening up new opportunities through like networking, or providing providing you projects that they think maybe your weak points, to help
Mhm.
you grow, but like also supporting you through them, is definitely ways that like corporate leaders can help you grow. I think corporate leaders know what they're doing, or at least us young leaders like to believe they do, and um, they have so much wisdom and, guidance that they are able to provide. So, of course, I think the young leaders also need to be willing to accept them. I know feedback is not always
Mhm.
easy to take back. I think that's also a skill that young leaders should like work to develop,
Mhm.
how to take constructive feedback and like use it to propel yourself further. But I think as corporate leaders, that's something very impactful that you can do, whether the young leader realizes it in the time or not.
Mhm. Mhm. And you think about innovation, right? I mean, the benefit of these young minds. I was just at an event last night, and somebody was talking about how their daughter was just this fantastic artist, and we think about all of these skills and capabilities and talents. What's your view on how to bring out innovation in kind of a for younger leaders? I mean, is there a way that are there tips or techniques that you would suggest?
I think my personal strategy has always been to establish relationships with my team members. I think that really goes far in creating that environment of trust and collaboration. I think to the best of my ability, of course, right?
Mhm.
There's been student orgs where I've had like 40 board members that I'm overseeing, and that becomes a bit more challenging. But with your team, like with the team size within reason, getting to know each individual and like having an individual relationship with them, I think that has gone very far in creating this culture of innovation and trust, celebrating the small wins, celebrating the big wins, um, but also making sure your team members know that failure is okay and it's something we all need to experience to continue to grow, and um, that when they do experience failure, that you're going to be there as their leader and as their cheerleader to help them pick up the pieces and keep going. um yeah, I think that's been my personal strategy so far.
Yeah, and of course that trust. It's a once you have the trust, you know that you can fail reasonably okay and recover from it or get the support you need. Some fantastic advice there. So, if you had some top advice, Pooja, for young leaders, what is your short list of top advice for young leaders?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think cultivating that growth mindset that I mentioned, embracing challenges as gifts rather than as obstacles. I know it's hard because no one wants to fail, but I think it's important. You're going to keep growing from it. So, frame those challenges and those failures in that perspective. Um, Build your network and like seek out those strong mentors. Mentorship is a two-way street, just as like corporate leaders are able to provide this guidance and mentorship. Like you need to be willing to, hold up your end of the bargain too. Um,
Mhm.
and also just, I guess, embracing authenticity, being true to who you are, and don't be afraid or embarrassed to share your passion. Be trustworthy and genuine and consistent with your actions and your decisions. Like find your own voice. Um, and I think that'll help you also build those more authentic relationships as well. Um, that'll help you like establish a stronger network and build better relationships with the teams you're leading.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Any particular resources or tools that you have used yourself that you might recommend to others?
I think I've been blessed that the people in my network and like in my life have been one of the biggest resources that I will ever
Mhm.
have when it comes to leadership and professional development. There's so much to learn from like other people's experiences. And if you can't get that from your own like personal network, of course you can reach like look to resources like this podcast or other leadership podcasts, where you can hear from the experiences of others, because I think that's one of the best ways to continue to develop yourself as a leader. Um, I think LinkedIn's, of course, great, not only for building your network, but LinkedIn Learning has a ton of great professional courses, um, or leadership development courses. So I think it's important to just always keep seeking those opportunities.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, the importance of a network, making sure you're constantly building that network, which will span whatever jobs you have during your long career,
Yeah.
right? And you'll continue to build and take those network partners with you. And thanks for giving the plug for listening to the podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
Not just mine, but other podcasts as well. No, some great advice, Pooja. I think that maintaining a growth mindset is key. We always seem to think about things as a win lose, and I always like the idea of a win. Somebody told me recently that I always talk about win-win, and they said, well, there's no such thing as a win-win. It's a win some and win some. And if you can create that balance where people get the things out of it that they need, that growth mindset can go a long way. Reframing failure as an opportunity to learn. I mean, what a great piece of advice for people to, encourage that risk taking, that calculated risk taking you're talking about. Authenticity builds trust with people, makes you more, a human being. We're all human beings, trying to get through, and that authenticity is really important. And I loved your comment about finding your voice. Whatever you're passionate about and whatever your big idea is in the world, to be able to find your voice and your kind of outlet or your channel that you're going to be able to speak to that in an authentic way, powerful way to your audience. It's fantastic advice. Any final thoughts or closing comments?
I think really just like the advice I had to give was what I had to say. I think
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
truly, like, just don't be afraid to keep growing yourself, to keep developing yourself as a personal and a professional.
Mm-hmm.
Seek those
Mm-hmm.
failures, seek those challenges, but be yourself along the way.
Fantastic. Well, Pooja, I just want to say thank you. It's been such a pleasure seeing you through, through your at least your graduate, the PharmD, a part of your career. I'm excited. I know that I don't know if you mentioned this earlier, but you're going to be starting, I guess, this fall with Amgen as a Rutgers University pharmaceutical industry fellow. What a fantastic honor and recognition of your talents. That's terrific to see you doing that.
Thank you.
And I love what I think you inspire others by just being you and the type of leader that you have become. So hats off to your father who inspired you when you were 5 years old that you were going to do this, because that's really shown through in terms of the energy that you bring to it and the commitment you bring to it. So thank you for being on the show, but also I wish you much success in your wonderful career that's ahead of you.
Thank you so much, Sean. It has been a pleasure speaking with you and talking to hopefully young leaders, and hopefully inspiring them to keep going.
Yeah. Well, and for our listeners, thank you for listening in. Hopefully, this was a wonderful session for you as well, and you picked up some tips and some ideas for inspiring young leaders in your organization. And so we will include more on Pooja's bio, Dr. Singh's bio, in the notes of this podcast, as well as her contact information. I'd encourage you to listen in on the future podcast. We have another exciting one coming up around leadership presence, executive presence, with Christina Zinni. So we'll be coming up in a week or two. And so thank you once again all for listening in. And we'll catch you next time.